Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I am just getting set up here. Here we go. Yay, there we are. Hate when I see my arm there, but that's okay. Good morning, good morning. We're a little bit early, so don't panic. I just thought I would log on, make sure everything was working. You never know for Facebook. You never know with me. I am definitely not a technology girl. So anyways, I just wanted to make sure. Let me just double check I'm getting comments here too. I am. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. That's awesome. Okay. I can sit down. I'm kind of out of practice. I haven't had to do this for a little bit, so bear with me. I didn't do the November ones, so this is but I have to get back on track here. Good morning, good morning. I appreciate all of you for taking the time. I know what a busy time of year it is right now. Some of you may just watch today and do your Christmas wrapping or whatever you want to do. That's just great. Whichever, as you know from me, all of my cards always have the instructions and the dimensions printed out. So I always print it out and I'll post it afterwards. So if you miss something or we don't get to all three cards, which we just might not, the first one takes a little while. So we'll go along, but otherwise I always have the instructions printed that I will post with the samples, and then you can always send me messages if there's something that you didn't understand or didn't get right or whatever. No problem at all. You can always do that as well. So good morning, everybody. I really do appreciate you like I say, taking the time at this busy time of year. We're coming to you from very dark and dreary Langley, BC this morning. At least it's not snowing, so you can drive around. But so I am going to get started pretty quickly here, just to make sure that we do get as much time as we can. And like I say, the first card we're going to work on, which is a little bit of an interactive card, it's going to take a little bit of extra time. So we'll see how we get to the other guys. This is a beautiful kit, and I was just so thrilled to be able to do a class that wasn't Christmas. Like, you feel like you should be doing everything Christmas right now, but it was kind of nice to plan and produce a class looking ahead to the spring and other cards other than your Christmas cards. So I hope that I hope we'll get through them, but like I say, if we don't, no problem. You'll always get it. And I have a couple of inspiration cards as well, and those full instructions too. So you'll be able to do lots. And I always use, obviously, half of the kit, because Courtney also will be doing her Crafty Hour later this afternoon. So at 5 o'clock Pacific, she will do hers. So we always kind of divide out. I always hope I don't use anything. And the inspiration cards, I always try and leave till afterwards, just in case Courtney's used something and I've used it on an inspiration card. There's so much in this kit, you can always swap out. So it's not a problem at all. I'll try and watch the comments as well. I'm not I seem to, I never always do that, but I will try and do that as well for you. So why don't we get started? We're going to start on this card. So this is card number 1. I'm going to lift it up a little bit too, just so you can see it a bit closer. And this is why I had you do the embossing ahead of time, the embossed pieces on it. If you haven't done it, again, don't worry about it. You can use plain cardstock, or you can just leave it and then you can do it when you have a chance. So it's not a problem at all, but it really adds something to have the embossed on there too. And I can't remember who it was, and I tried to look this morning. Somebody asked me about doing the panels ahead of time. Did they all have to be a certain way? I said yes, up and down. Then I realized this little one is a horizontal piece. But if it's an all over pattern, it's not going to make any difference at all. But I do apologize because I did say they were all vertical. So this is a card. I can't even remember what it was called. It was a fun fold card that I found. And it opens up like this. So it's kind of a cool little gifty within a card. And I think it would be really cute, especially if you were going to put like a gift card or something here. I left it blank so you have it for your sentiment, but you could always put a gift card there, because then it would be, ta-da, there's your gift card. And you could always just write on the back your sentiment in that as well. So let's get started on this guy, because like I say, it's pretty well just cutting, but it's just going to take us some extra time. So I'm going to put it up here so you can see the card. I'll leave it there. And I've also got, like I say, my directions that I will put here. Make sure we're in camera. There we go. I'll have to move this over a little bit just so I can get my cutter in here. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so if you grab your paper cutter, which I asked you to have because we have to do the cutting and we also have to do the scoring. So the first thing that we're going to do for this one is grab a piece of your cardstock, your heavyweight cardstock or whatever you have. I know there was a sheet of white cardstock in your kit as well. With Courtney and I, we always use half a sheet or cut all our cardstocks in half so we make sure we don't use enough. That's why I always say have extra white. Everybody has white for your card bases and that as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by cutting the base, okay? So if you've got your trimmer, you're going to cut a piece of white cardstock 10 3/4 by 5.5. So let's start by for our 5.5. So that's going to be our vertical, this cut here. So we're doing that at 5.5. Okay, just cut that off, and I'm sure we'll be able to use this scrap somewhere along the line. And then you're going to cut this piece to 10 3/4. Just move this guy out of the way just for one sec so I can get my bar open. There we go. And we're going to go to 10 3/4. So most of you will know where that is, and it's almost your entire 8.5 by 11 sheet, of course, because you're only taking off 1/4 inch. So I should be able to bring, oh, I'll probably need that out again for a sec. So I'll just leave it like that. Okay, and then we're going to do our scoring. So this is why I love the Spellbinder trimmer, because it's got your scoring blade and your cutting blade on it. I just have to get used to which one's which. I go to score and I cut it in half, but I am getting better at it. So it does work really well. So what we're going to do is we are going to score it 4 times. And again, I've got the scoring right on here on your directions, so you can look at it afterwards if you're not crafting along right now. But we're going to score the first at 1 5/8. So 1 5/8 is just 1/8 over 1.5. So if you go to your 1 5/8 and you're going to score it, make sure I have the right one. I do. Okay, so 1 5/8, and I always do it a few times just to make sure we've got it good. Then you're going to go to 3 1/4, like that. And then we're going to go to 7 1/2. And we're going to go to 9 1/8. So just a little over the 9, not 9 1/4, just a little bit over 9 1/8. And just like that, that's our score lines. Done. It's hard to see obviously on here, but that's how they're going to turn out. So we could set that aside just from now, because what we're going to do now is we're going to do all our cutting for all of the panels, and then we'll build the card once we've got that done. So if you want to just set your card base off to the side, then we're good to go. So then we're going to start with panel 1, and I'm going to show you on this. I did one ahead of time just so we can kind of see. So this is panel 1, this little guy here. This is panel 2, and then we've got the inside is the inside piece that we did as well. And then the one that we built on top, it doesn't, it's a separate little panel too. But just so you know, when I'm talking about panel 1 and panel 2, that's where they're going to go. But we'll worry about that when we're going to stick it down after we do our cutting. Okay, everybody's okay? Everyone's following me so far, I hope. Good. What was the last one? Last scoring, Wanda? The last scoring, so it was 1 5/8, 3 1/4, 7 1/2, and 9 1/8. So those were your 4 for scoring. Dawn, what is it that do you have a question about something that I'm cutting or the scoring? Because like I say, I can always, this usually sits here too, and I can pull it over. No problem, Wanda. Yep. Okay, good, thanks. Deanna's actually even put them right there as well. So there's your 4 scorings there for you. So so we're gonna do our cutting. So we're gonna build all our panels and then we'll stick them together. So it's the cutting that takes your longest amount of time. So panel number 1, which is the one that I showed you, we're gonna cut a piece of black cardstock. Now I believe there was black cardstock in your kit. Again, I just asked you to have extra just because it may be, it's just easier sometimes to have some extra to the side. Miss maybe done for where do I find instructions for Crafty Hours? Instructions, I usually always post them on the Crafty Hour site. And that's usually I'll post the picture with them afterwards. I don't do it as we do it, but I do it at least either the evening of or a day or two afterwards. But you will find them on the Crafty Hour group site for sure. Okay, so panel number 1. So we're going to cut a piece of black cardstock. Okay, so we're going to panel 1, black cardstock piece cut to 3 inches by 5 inches. So I'm just going to grab a piece of cardstock here, and I'm just doing 3 inches by 5 inches. Okay, so that's for our panel number 1. And then that was your embossed piece that I asked you to do in homework. It was 2 3/4 by 4 3/4. So that's why it gives you a little bit of a border around the outside. So that's what that one is. That's your panel number 1, those 2 pieces. And then if you also grab the pattern paper that I asked you to have available too, and again, you're welcome to switch it out. Just be careful in case Courtney is using some of the ones that I'm not using today. Okay, so we're gonna have a little bit of a butterfly strip on the panel as well. Okay, and we're gonna cut that. The butterfly strip is 2 3/4. No, hold on. 2 3/4 by 4 3/4. No, it's not that big. Hold on one sec. Don't cut, don't cut, don't cut. I think it's supposed to be 1 3/4 on there. 1 inch by 4 3/4. Okay, look, I screwed it up. Okay, so the butterfly strip is 1 inch by 4 3/4. So you're just going to take one little piece off here, and that's just going to go on as a piece on top of your embossed piece. Okay, so that's that guy there, and cut him to 4 3/4. And this pad is 6 by 6, so you're only taking off about 1 1/2, just like that. Okay, and that is going to form that piece. Okay, so we can set that guy aside. We could do all our gluing at one time. You can do it as you go, whatever you prefer. I just find it easier sometimes to have all my pieces and then do sort of an assembly line. Okay, so panel number 2, we need another piece of your black cardstock, and it's going to be 2 1/2 by 4 1/2. So 2 1/2 by 4 1/2. Just like that. Okay, and the piece of embossed white cardstock that I had asked you to do ahead of time was 2 1/4 by 4 1/4. So again, you have that border around the outside. Okay, everybody's okay? That's that guy there. And this butterfly strip, again, should be 1 inch by 4 3/4. So another strip of that pretty butterfly paper by 4 3/4. And that's just going to go, nope, it's going to be less than 4 3/4. Oh my goodness. See, this is what happens when you don't do crafty hours for a while. You get out of sync. That's okay. It's going to be less. So 4 1/4. I'm sorry, not 4 3/4, 4 1/4. And that's going to go on that other side. So just like that. There we go. So those are going to be our two outside panels. When we look at the card, that's going to be this panel and that's going to be this background panel here. So there are different sizes too, which again makes it a little bit neat when it's being more of an interactive card. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and stick these guys together. You're welcome to use foam tape. You're welcome to keep them flat. You can use your runner. You can use glue, whatever works the best for you. What I did for these ones is I did the embossed piece onto, or the pattern piece, the butterflies onto the embossed piece with glue. I find it sticks a little bit better than when you're trying to use a tape runner or anything like that. And this is not a super heavy duty paper either. So you want to make sure you're not putting foam tape before it. You probably wouldn't get a good stick on that too. Okay, so just a little bit of glue, and you're just gonna stick the butterfly. I stuck it flush up against the right-hand side, just like that. Or you could leave a tiny little bit of a border, whatever you'd prefer. But I just put it flush up, and I love this glue because you can push it around in that as well. Okay. And then I used foam tape to put it onto my black piece. So it's got that little bit of a border around the outside. And I just used some foam tape to put it on. Again, if you'd prefer to have it not quite so thick, then you can always use just glue onto the black as well. And when we attach it to the card, it will just be flat. I'm just going to put a few pieces of foam tape on here just for time saving. And when I do it, I would probably, you know, and the other thing you could use is those strips, which are super handy. Okay, so that one is going on like that. Everybody okay? Referring to the score measurement, can you bring the size 1 3/4 butterfly? Can't see the info sheet, I'm sorry. Bring that over. There you go. Perfect. Okay, so and then let's do the same thing for the bigger piece, the one that we did first. We'll do it on here as well. So again, I just use glue for the butterfly piece. I'll put it flush up against, but again, you're welcome to do it and leave yourself a little bit of a border, whatever you'd prefer. And then foam tape onto the black. So those are building our two base pieces on the front. And I'm just tearing and ripping right now, just again to save us some time. Okay, so those are your two pieces for the top. So one is going to go that way, one is going to go that way. And that's when they're opening up, that's how they're going to be. Okay. There we go. So we've got those two pieces done. And then we can build our inside piece. So this piece here that's going to go on the inside of your card. And what I used for that one is I used this script piece that I had asked you to grab out of your kit. This black and white script piece that I thought was so nice. And then just your black cardstock again. Okay, so what we can do, let's cut our black cardstock first. That's going to form your mat. Let's hope these dimensions are right. Okay, so 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. So 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. Let's just make sure. Yeah, look at that one. It works perfectly. How exciting. Okay, so that's going to form your inside mat in the card. That's what that one's going to do. And we're going to have just a tiny little border of the black with the script paper. So what I did for this is I did 3 5/8 by 5 1/8. So it's a very tiny border. So 3 5/8 is just 1/8 over 3 1/2. And 5 1/8. So a tiny little black border. I just don't like putting just plain paper onto a background. So I always like to have a little bit of a border. Okay, so just a tiny little border around that piece. Okay, and then all I did was cut a piece of white cardstock just to have it for my sentiment. So like we talked about before, it could be a sentiment, or you could attach your gift card or whatever you want to do. So you're just going to cut a piece that I have on here. It says white cardstock piece, cut to 3 4 3/4. This is great for your message. Or like I say, you're welcome to add your gift card. Okay, so 3 inches. I actually probably could have used that extra strip from that first cutting, but that's okay. Always have white cardstock around. 4 3/4. Okay, so that would just go on there. And I didn't mat it, I didn't do anything. I just stuck it just on there so it formed your piece for your sentiment. Okay? So let's go back to where we started off here, and we're going to just fold our card, okay? So this is how the card, if it can see it, you see it like that? Yeah, okay, so that's a pretty good view. So this is how the card is gonna fold. Okay, so if you grab your card, our base that we started with, and we're just going to fold it in and up. That makes sense. Make it a little valley. Okay, and then the same thing on the other side. So it's going to be just like that and that. No, other way. Oh, why am I not getting it right? You know, sometimes interactive cards just confuse the heck out of me. There we go, got it. Okay, so like this. So if you can see it, I'm gonna get this one out of the way, okay? So we've got flat base, fold like that, and fold like that. That's how they go in. Does that make sense? Sorry, Daryl. There you go. Kelly, the script measure, it was, black and white script piece was 3 5/8 by 5 1/8. Okay, so just like that. It kind of forms like a little accordion. Okay, so then when you flip it over, this is what you're left with. So you're left with it coming out like that. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Leslie Ann, that it's freezing. Good old, I don't know if half the time it's TELUS or if it's Facebook, you never know, right? Okay, so then what you can do is you can stick your piece. So this again, when we were talking before, this is panel number 1. So the one that's on this side, right here, that's your panel number 1. And we're going to stick this big piece, which is this piece here that we've already built, we're gonna stick it on. And I stuck it on flat because I didn't need, you don't need to have any extra. So all I did was just leave a little bit of a border at the top and a little bit of the border at the bottom, just like that. And just stuck it on flat. So you can use your glue, you can use your tape runner, whatever you wanna use. I'm just gonna add a little bit of glue to that side. And again, just leave a little on this border all the way around basically. So top and bottom, just like that. Okay, everybody okay? Okay, so that's how that one goes, just like that. The second one is going to come over top. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to make sure when you glue this one on, and you have your butterflies on the outside, so just like this here. What you want to do is you just want to make sure that when this is closing, that this guy kind of goes over top. Whoops. Oh, hold on a second. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so this guy tucks inside, this one goes over top. So what you want to do is you just want to get it sort of so it's in position. So your card is closed, that is over top like that. So you have a little bit of a border again, top and bottom. That way when it opens up like that and closes like that. So you just want to get that into place. You don't want to have it too high or too low. You really want to have it just so that it frames that background piece. So just kind of hold it in place and kind of just, I just eyeball. If you want to measure, it's probably, where did I just put my ruler? Here it is. It's probably about 1/4 inch, I would say. Yeah, about 1/4 inch. But again, I just eyeball. I just sort of get an idea. Put your glue on, and again, if you're working with this glue, it is forgiving. So that way you can kind of play around with it a little bit. So I just close my card up like that and then have this guy over top. Okay, so just like that. Just stick it down. And then that's how it opens. So it opens and closes just like that. So this little guy goes over top of the big one. The big one sort of tucks inside. All right, and then you can take your inside piece that we cut. So we have the black with the white, and all that one's going to do is it's just going to stick inside. And I'm not going to take the time to do it because you don't really need to. It's completely flat. I didn't use any foam at all, so I did all 3 layers flat. And so that when your card again opens up, there's your sentiment, or your piece for your sentiment or for your gift card, whatever you want. And what I did on this one, and I'm not going to do it because obviously I don't have any more of the chipboard, and I didn't ask you to pull it because you can decide if you want to put a sentiment there or whatever you want to do. You have so many options in the kit itself. I just put this little chipboard that said you were free to fly. I put it down at the bottom with a little bit of foam tape. But you could add one of the other butterflies. There's so many die cuts and stuff. I didn't want to go specific. So anyhow, that's what I did in my card. I just put that down at the bottom. Okay, so that's your inside piece. Those 2 pieces have now connected. And now what we can do is just cut that final little piece, and there's no butterfly paper or anything involved at all. I had you do a embossed piece, a tiny little embossed piece. We're just going to mat that in black. And so the black piece that we need is 2 and...
Grab the Sharpie. Write them out. They can't read that. It's too small. That way it helps. Here's a whole whack of them.
Okay, so let's do the, 2 1/8 by 3 5/8 in black. Okay, so this is just to mat that little piece of black, embossed that I had you do. So that's 2 1/8 by 3 5/8. There we go. Okay. I probably have another piece here somewhere, but I am just going to grab this. Two 1/8 by 3 5/8. And all that's doing is just matting that little embossed piece that I had you do ahead of time. And look, it works. How exciting. Okay, so just like that. And just glue it together or use foam, whatever you'd prefer. I'm just going to glue it. Okay. Everybody good? All right, and then all I did for this one was I just, did I use foam? No, I didn't. I just glued it flat. So all you want to do is make sure you just put glue on this part here, because obviously you have to be able to open your card. So if you just put glue on the one side, and I just put it in the center so that when my card is closing, I have that overlap flap, just like that. So you've got your big piece, the smaller piece. Now this forms your little topper. Open it up. And because I haven't stuck this in, it's not sitting there, but that was your sentiment piece. Okay. So that's all I did for that card. So that one is finished except for, and I'm just going to show you my finished piece. And again, I didn't have you stamp ahead of time because you may have your own sentiment, but these sentiments that were in this class too were phenomenal. And I just stamped it in black, matted it, and added it on to my little topper with a piece of foam tape. Okay, so that was just like that. And I also glued on this beautiful pink butterfly, which was in your kit. And it's one of the paper ones. So it's not one of the acetate ones. It's just the paper one. And I just added a tiny little bit of glue. I didn't pop it up. I just put some glue on the side of it, just like that. And that way you can pop up the wings too. Okay, so just like that. And then the only other thing I will tell you what I did as an option, and you can decide if you wanted to. I just found this card because it's so cute and it pops up, which is great. But if you wanted to make sure that it was flatter when you gave it, I grabbed some of this black twine stuff that you can usually get at the craft store or even dollar stores sometimes. And I just tied this into a little bow, just to add that to the card, and it kept it together, especially if you're sticking a little gift card. And so you could just tie a little bow like that, cut it down, cut the little pieces off. I don't know how good those scissors are. That'll work. And it really is a little gift in a card. It's really a very fun little card that I think you could use for all kinds of occasions. And I also added just a little silver or clear rhinestone just at the top of the butterfly, just as an accent. You can, or you could use stickles, or you could use anything that you wanted to use as well. So that one was a little, I hope it was okay. I'm sorry about the dimensions. I thought I had them correct. But like I say, I will post this, my direction sheet afterwards. So if you missed a cut or you wanted to change it out a little bit, you could always do that too. So I hope that one turned out okay for you as well. So that's just a really fun, fun fold. So that one was, yeah, one of my favorites. I really thought it would turn out pretty with the butterflies and everything as well. Okay, so that is card number one. Card number two. How are we doing? Oh, good. We're not too bad, even with my missteps. Okay, so card number two. I asked you to pull the die cut and some of these papers that you had, and some other little die cuts as well that we'll grab when we need to get them. All right, so let's cut our base first. And our base is actually much easier for this one because there's not a lot of folding and scoring and things like that. So again, you're going to use a piece of your white cardstock. I use the Nina 110. I love it for my card bases. But you are, again, you can use whichever cardstock you are used to and what you like to do. Oh, where's my card? Here's my card. Let's have it out here too. So this is card number two. And really it is just layering the pattern pieces onto your card base. So it's just, I just loved this kit. I thought it was just beautiful. It was just something different. Okay, so let's do our card base for this one then. So I'm just gonna move this to the side for 1 sec while I do my cutting, and then I can move that bar back in again. Okay, so let's cut our paper. So let's do this the long way first. Okay, so we're gonna do it to 6 3/4. So white card base, here's your dimensions on it. Cut your paper to 6 3/4 by 9 1/2. Okay, so 6 3/4 this way. And by 9 1/2. Taking off most of that. Okie dokie. And then we're just gonna score it at 4 3/4. So halfway through, so scoring at 4 3/4. There we go. There's our card base. Forgot my little burnisher, but that's okay. That'll work well. Okay, so then we are going to do a background black piece. Okay, so this is going to form our background on the card. All right, and this one we are going to cut the cardstock to 4 3/8 by 6 1/8. Give me 1 second. Let me make sure I have that right, because I don't want there being an issue. 4 3/8 by 6 1/8. So 4 3/8 is not quite the 4 1/2. 1, 2, 3. And by 6 1/8. So just a little bit over our 6. And let me double check. Yay, we got it right. Okay, so 4 3/8 by 6 1/8. That's forming your background for the black. Okay, so it's just giving it the dimension on the background. Okay, so 4 3/8 by 6 1/8. Now we're going to cut a piece of the patterned cardstock that again was in your kit, this one here, and I cut it this way. You are welcome to do it this way, whichever you'd prefer. It's just forming the background of the card, and you don't see a ton of it because we're layering on top of it, but I did it with my stripes going that way. Okay, so the striped piece, cut it, and then I'm going to tell you 4 1/4 by 6. You don't even have to cut. You only have to make one cut, and that's right. Okay, so your next piece is going to be the stripe piece is 4 1/4, and it is 4 1/4 by 6. But because this is a 6 by 6 pad, you don't have to cut. So all you need to cut is your piece going that way, and it will mat exactly onto your black. And you can glue these two pieces together, or again use your tape runner, but I did do it flat. I didn't use any foam or anything to put these two pieces together. So it just gives a tiny little black border around the outside. Okay, so that is our background, and that's going to go onto here, and we can do that. Yeah, why don't we do that now? So again, you can put it on flat, and it just has obviously a border around the outside all the way around. And I brought it up a little bit, so I'm going to just show you on my sample card. Because I had these other two layers kind of hang off, I just brought this one a little bit closer up to the edge of the card. So not exactly all the way. So I would do it up like about that, about I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or something, maybe a little bit bigger. That way you have this extra piece down here where those other pattern pieces are just going to hang over top. And again, you can use foam tape. I did this one with foam tape. So you could use foam tape, or you can use, just do it flat, whatever you prefer. Either way. some on. The other guys are going to just be flat on top of this. So this will give you your dimension onto your card base. There we go. Okay, so again, just up a little bit closer to the top so you have that little bit of a border at the bottom for those other pieces to just hang. Okay, so there's your background piece on there. Okay, so then your next piece that you're going to use is this gold wispy paper, and I've used part of it only for the sample, so that's why mine is smaller. You're obviously going to have a 6x6 piece of this. So what you want to do for this one is you're going to cut this piece here, the gold wispy paper, to 3x6. And again, so you're not going to have to cut this bottom because it is already, oh, I already have my 3 because I used the other half. So 3 inches this way, and it's an all over pattern, so it doesn't really matter which way it's going. 3 inches, and then you don't even have to worry about cutting the other side because it's already 6 inches. And this one we can now glue on to your background. And so if you can see on here, I went all the way up almost to that line, that top line up here, and then I just let it hang over a little bit. So it was just up, and I had it just come over as much as you want. You can pull it down a little bit, so you've got a little bit of it hanging over top. I just thought that looked kind of neat, not to have it exact. And you can just glue that one on, because it is going on flat. Just remember, don't go all the way to the bottom because you've got that extra. You don't want to have it stuck to the bottom of your card. So just bring it up and over slightly to the right. So you've got that there. Okay, everybody okay? Hope so. Okay, and then we're going to do one more layer of, make sure I have that straight. There we go. One more layer of the pattern paper, and that was this pretty kind of peachy polka dot paper. And it again is going to just form another layer on top of the gold wispies. Okay. And this one is 3x6 as well, because all I did was I just brought it down a little bit more. So cut it in half. You've got your paper is 6x6, cut it in half to 3. And again, you don't need to cut the other edge because it's already cut for you. And then all I did was kind of overlap it. So you've just sort of got almost a little stairway. So you've got your stripe, then you've got your gold, which is slightly down, and then the pink polka dot, just slightly down as well. So just like that. And again, you can just glue it right on flat. And remember, again, don't go all the way to the bottom. Just want it like that. And I actually left a little bit more only because I love that gold wispy. So you want to have like a little bit of it hanging over on this left-hand side so you can see it. So just form sort of a little staircase. Stripe, gold wispy, and then that pinky color. Just like that. That forms your background. Okay. Then we're going to use the Let Your Dreams Be Your Wings. So this is going to form our topper. So what I did was I cut it to 3 1/8 by 4 1/8. Now let me see what's that here. 3 1/8. Oh, it's pretty well already at that. But double check your piece that it's pretty well the 3 1/8 by 4 1/8 when you get it. So you shouldn't have to cut it down. But you can always cut it down a little bit if you have to when you go to put your mat on there as well. Okay. And then we're going to mat this in, oh, actually, you know what? No, this guy is 3 by 4. Yeah, okay, your card is 3 by 4. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab a piece of white cardstock and we're gonna cut it to 3 1/8 by 4 1/8. So it's gonna just form a tiny little border because again, the paper isn't super thick, and so I like to have it when I'm sticking it on as a topper especially. 3 1/8 by 4 1/8, just like that. Okay. And then, so those two are just going to stick together. And then we can cut our black piece as well. And the black piece just goes up again. So 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And just like that. Okay, so you've got your white, and what I did with these is I glued these two together, and then I put this onto the black with foam tape, just to give it my dimension, and then that onto my card base with foam tape. So it just gave the dimension in the card. But again, if you want to have it flat, you can do it all glue. It can be all completely flat. Doesn't matter, and whatever you'd prefer. Okay, so that forms your topper. That basically is it for your card base. The only other thing I did was this little die cut that you would find in your package, and I think I told you to pull it. I'm pretty sure I grabbed it to pull it. All I did with this one is I just tucked it in. So you know how Deanna always does kind of her tucking in. So what I would do is I'd attach this first and then just tuck this in, and I tucked it in so you only saw this kind of little numerical on the side, if you can see it. So this is attached, and then you're just going to tuck that in, and you can rip this off if you want, you know, cut it in half so you don't have quite as much to tuck in, or you could even keep it where it says capture my heart. You could have that kind of sticking up on the side as well. So depending on how much you want over top of it, it's entirely up to you and exactly where you'd like to place it. If you want it more towards the top or in the center, either one will work, and it's really just kind of pretty. It just adds a little bit of extra on that left-hand side. So just like that. Okay, and then I won't worry about going into too much detail with the butterflies. Now, your butterfly, your beautiful acetate butterflies, I just absolutely love these guys. So what Courtney and I decided is they were 2 strips. You have 8 of them. So I used, I believe it was the left-hand side. Yeah, it was. So I used all the 4 butterflies on the left, and then Courtney would have these ones for tonight's crafty hour. But you can decide if you prefer to have, can you see that guy? Bring that up a bit. There we go. If you can, if you decide you prefer to have the blue and you want to make a different color, you've got 8 of them. So you can definitely play around with whatever, however you want to do it. And the only tip I would give you on these, and I know Deanna has given this tip before as well, which is just so cool. I'm just going to show you with one of the other butterflies, is if you take your foam tape, and don't peel off the backing for your foam tape. So I'm just going to cut a tiny little piece of foam tape here. Scissors are not great. I should have had my little foam strip, but that's okay. Okay, so I've got a tiny little piece, and I would have my backing on it. Okay, so I've cut my little piece of foam tape. It's got my backing on it. And then what I would do is I would take a powder tool. If you've got one of these, they're awesome. If you don't, you may want to grab one because we use them quite a bit. And what you do is you just powder the back of the wings. So now all that's going to stick is the foam. It's not the butterfly itself that is going to stick to your card. So it just gives it, that way the little wings and that can pop up a little bit better. But this powder tool is cool. This one is from EK Success, but there are different ones that you can get as well. And then that way when you stick this on, the little wings don't stick to your background. You're able to play around with them and manipulate them the way you want. So with my card that I did, that I finished, I put the pink butterfly here. And again, I used that with the foam tape. This little butterfly was the other die cut that I asked you to pull, the little tiny pink butterfly. Matched that one that we used in card number 1. And then I also had the tiny little word love. Okay, so just that guy here, if you can see him, he's so tiny. And so all I did was I just put it on with my foam tape because I had my powder. I put a little piece of foam tape in behind this one, and you're able to pop it up, and a bit of foam tape in behind the word love. So I just put them in that corner just to give it that little bit of dimension. And then I just used some gold gems. I love those fashion gold gems from Spellbinders. They're tiniest ones. Added the embellishment to the butterflies and added a little one up here in the corner too, just to tie it all in. If we can get a little bit closer, sometimes these guys get a, but yeah, so I just added a little tiny gem up here too. But again, you could use stickles or anything else you wanted to use too. So that one is complete. That, like I say, all you want to do is make sure you build your topper that we had here, and then go ahead and embellish. And if you want to use the butterfly I use, great. If you want to use one of the other ones, you can. It just means one of the ones Courtney is using, you're going to have a different one. But all about you. You guys can decide exactly how you want to do it. So I just thought this was a beautiful way of using some of the pattern papers as well as the acetate butterflies as well. Okay, so that one is card number 2. And card number 3, I'm just going to go over quickly with you. Grab my dimensions for card number 3. Because again, card number 3 is really almost like card number 2 in the fact that all I did was build using the different pattern papers. So I just basically layered the pattern papers that we had here. This little butterfly is popped over. There we go. So what we did was we started with a card base, and I believe it was the same as the card base that we just did now on card number 2. So it was the same one, 6.5 by 9.5. If you want to cut your card base, 6.5 by 9.5, and then score it again at 4 3/4. So 6.5 this way. Card up here. By 9.5. Okay, and then just scored at 4 3/4. Scoring blade. There's my card base. Okay, and then the pieces on top actually form almost like a topper. So what I did for the background piece is I started because I wanted to have it kind of popped up. And again, because of the fact that the paper is not super stiff, I did a piece of white cardstock again. I do a lot of my cards with a white piece on a white piece. I just think it gives a nice little frame. So what I did was I cut a piece of white cardstock, and the piece of white cardstock, get rid of this, was 4 3/8 by 6 1/8. So it's not going to have a huge border around the outside. And 3/8 by 6 1/8. No, that's not right. Oh my goodness. I do apologize, people. 4.5 by 6, 4.5 by 6.25. No, by 6 1/8. So my 6 1/8 is right. I'm going to fix these dimensions and I will get them to you because I don't want to, I'm just going to go over the card because I don't want you guys cutting and that and then it doesn't work for you either. So let's just go over the card here too. So we've got our card base, the white that I was just talking about, that I'll get you the correct dimensions. And then the papers that I asked you to pull, again, just these beautiful pattern papers out of the kit. So it's got this beautiful floral background one, this one here, that formed my background. And then the one strip that we had from card number 1, I believe it was, or card number 2, that had this here, the striped piece. This was my leftover. So I was able to put it just on top of my pattern paper like that. And then I cut a very narrow piece of the light green pattern. It was like 3¼ inch by 6. And that just went on top of this. So again, I'm just building it. That's all I'm doing, just using the layers of the pattern paper. And then I had asked you to do, again, a little piece of embossed for this one as well. I used the same embossed piece, the Flower Frenzy, which I love. And that was for the topper with the little bird cage. I'll pull this up a little bit higher so you can see it as well. And so I stuck the bird cage onto there with foam tape. And again, I used the powder tool with the acetate butterfly and put it on there. And then the cute little gold foiled butterfly. Same thing, foam tape, popped him up and used the little word dream. Okay, and then this was a die cut. Somebody asked me this morning, they couldn't find it. It should be in with your die cuts. I used that just as the background for my sentiment. And again, this sentiment is off the Sentiment stamp set. It's a phenomenal stamp set. It's really, really great. So I think that you could use this one, or if you wanted to do happy birthday or something you had in your stash as well, please go ahead and do that. But just again, it's really pretty soft card. They really did a great job of the kit. So I will just double check on those dimensions though, because I don't want you cutting these pieces and making sure they're not exactly correct. They just are off a tiny little bit. So I'll make sure I get that and put that out to you tonight. So you have that for card number 3. So those are the 3 cards that we do for today's Crafty Hour. I also did a couple of inspirational cards. And the only thing I wanted to mention about one of the cards, this one here. So again, I have the dimensions that I will post for you that have all the dimensions and the instructions for. This die was in with your set, and I just thought it was the most beautiful die. But the one thing that I would mention to you is make sure when you're cutting it, first of all, I found I needed to use like a little piece on my big shot anyways, a couple of layers of cardstock just to get it to go through properly. And you did have to use like a poking tool or something like that just to poke out the holes themselves. But it turned out, it's such a cute little frame. It's just a beautiful frame. So I did it and I put it onto this black cardstock. And the only reason and this is the butterfly from your die cut set as well. So you can die cut the butterfly and pop him up. These are just the die cuts that were in your kit. But the one thing I just wanted to mention about this is when you're trying to put it onto your background, there's no way you're going to get glue or something on it. You're going to have yourself into a mess. So if you have one of the sticky folios, I know we have these in stock in Clipper Street, and I'm sure probably Courtney has them too. But these are great because they've got like the adhesive sheet. So you stick it down, you peel it off, and now it's got all the little dotty gluey pieces on it. Or there's another product called Sticky Specs, and it works the same sort of way. But it'll put your adhesive onto a die cut like that, and you don't have to worry about glue or, I mean, obviously foam tape or something like that wouldn't work either for it. So I just wanted to mention that, and again, I will post it. And then there's one more card for inspiration. This one here, I used my leftover butterflies that I had. This Smile Often, again, was one of the one of the dies that you have in your kit. Very fine. So again, you would want to use the sticky specs or one of those kind of folios, because you can put the glue onto it and it'll stick, because to try and get glue on the back of something like that, really difficult. And the background on this one, I don't know if it's going to show up all that great, but this was the Spellbinders embossing folder, the 3D embossing folder. It's called Beautiful Butterflies. I had to use it on one of the cards just because obviously it ties right in. I know we're out of them right now at Clipper Street. I don't know about Courtney, but you can get them because they are Spellbinders and they're fairly recent, and it's just a gorgeous embossing folder. So you can always call the stores and put an order in for that as well. I think that is it for me. I do apologize about a few of those dimensions. I need to get back on track, and now of course we have a break. I will be doing another Crafty Hour in mid-January. That Crafty Hour actually will be introduced tomorrow morning. Diane will be doing the reveal for that here at Clipper Street, and it'll be at 9 a.m. Pacific. So if you tune in, you'll have an idea of the next Crafty Hour that will be coming up. Don't forget, Courtney's Crafty Hour is today at 5 p.m. Pacific, and I know she always has awesome ideas, and I'm sure her dimensions will be completely right too. Anyways, also, I always want to make mention as well, please make sure you join Crafty Hour Creations. That's where we can post your creations, and it's a great way of having info, and also if anybody ever has questions or anything like that, it's a great community too, because people post other things that they do with their leftovers and all that kind of stuff. And so that's a great way to do that. So make sure you also go into join up for Crafty Hour Creations. I want to thank all of you again for joining me. I do apologize for those couple of mishaps. I will be back in the new year. I want to wish every single one of you a very happy holiday and an awesome 2024, a wonderful crafty 2024. I look forward to doing more of these. It's a lot of fun, and I really do enjoy it, and I hope you do enjoy them as well. So I will post the directions and the cards, like I say, either later tonight or tomorrow, and inspiration cards as well. You'll have those too. So thank you again for being with me. I really do appreciate it. And Merry Christmas. Enjoy it all. And we will see you in 2024. Take care. Thanks again. Bye-bye.